Welcome. My name is Stephen Meggs. I'm going to be your instructor for this fully online version of REL2300, which is World Religions. This is just kind of an orientation video, kind of orientation you'd have if you were taking a face-to-face class, usually the first class. The instructor spends a large part of the class just talking about the course. So while you're listening to this, hopefully you've already downloaded the documents that you saw in the first module. What I'm going to be going over here first is the introductory letter, the welcome letter. And I'm also going to be going over, there's a document that says addendum, instructor's course objectives. And I'm going to be going over the syllabus as well. And not going to take too much time on the things that are self-explanatory, but talk about the things that are important. First of all, I'm excited about teaching the course, and I always have been, because the course can be very beneficial in your life. The world religions, whether you're religious or not, have a whole lot of wisdom about how to live your life in the most productive way, the most fulfilling way, about how to have inner peace, how to have the greatest meaning and fulfillment in your life. And everybody's looking for those kind of things, whether you believe in God or you're looking for them in a religious sense or not. And you'll find that a lot of these things, even if you're not religious, have a lot of practical sense that can really be helpful. And a lot of students after the course will tell me and will remind me years later, sometimes sending me emails, how much the course really did help them to understand some different ways of dealing things in life that ended up making them more successful and just having a more fulfilling life. So it is a very beneficial course, and can benefit you in your career, your relationships, personal growth. Certainly travel. If you're traveling different places in the world, you'll learn a lot about different cultures and religions and so on. Anyway, this is a critical thinking course where you are going to have to contemplate and wrestle with many challenging, deeper concepts. I'm just kind of reading word for word the first line. When I say critical thinking, we're dealing here with a course where there are many different ways of looking at the same subjects. And it's not so much about learning the right answers, it's about learning all the different answers that have been presented and promoted by different people, by different cultures, by different religions, and learning to see things from a variety of different perspectives. And in the multitude of perspectives comes understanding and comes wisdom. So if you ask, what is the meaning of life? Well, how many different answers are there to that question? And so it wouldn't be a matter of learning the right answer. It would be a matter of learning all the different ways that humans through the centuries have attempted to answer that question and have attempted to find meaning and purpose in life. So in that regard, it's going to be more important in this class to deal with concepts rather than trying to, memorize the answers to questions. That might work well in a course like, anatomy or something, because the tibia is always the tibia, the ulna is always the ulna. But in a course like an Introduction to Religious Studies or Introduction to World Religion, it's more like a philosophy course. If you've ever taken Intro to Philosophy, Intro to Sociology, an Intro to Psychology, what you'll find out is there are many different viewpoints that different scholars and different schools of the academic discipline hold, and you're learning how to look at these different topics, different issues from multiple perspectives. And this course is going to be very much the same kind of thing. So the important thing is going to be understanding the concepts. That is much more important than memorizing questions and answers. In fact, memorizing questions and answers will not serve you well. Understanding concepts will serve you well. If you really understand a concept, I can ask you 20 or 30 different questions about the concept, and you'll have no problem answering them. But if you're trying to memorize questions and answers, if I ask you a question that's different than the way I've asked it before, or say you have multiple choice answers that are different than the ones that you had previously, you're going to be stumped. So it is really about understanding. You're going to have to think in this course. You're going to have to think about concepts, wrestle with them, think about them different ways. Hopefully you like to think, much like an Intro to Philosophy. Intro to World Religions is a thinking course, which brings us back to what we're talking about with critical thinking here. Hopefully you've had a course like this before. If not, I hope you're really going to enjoy it. But let me just say, a lot of students come in and think that, oh, it's religion, it must be easy. I went to vacation Bible school or something. I know that Moses parted the Red Sea. And trust me, in this course, you're going to learn about concepts you have never really thought about before, at least never thought about in depth. It is very rare that I have a student that goes, oh yeah, I was just thinking about this particular, philosophical way of looking at things. This is going to be very new stuff. And so if you're looking for this really easy A skating course, this is probably not it. But if you like to think about things that matter, you like to think about things that really can help you, in your personal life and stuff, then you'll probably love this course. So there's a lot of thinking. It's about understanding concepts and thinking them through in different ways. The next thing, I'm going through this introduction, this welcome letter here. And in the next thing, it says Gordon Rule English Composition Requirements. Gordon Rule, it's named after a guy named Gordon, who was a legislator way back when, who was concerned that students were graduating from community colleges and such, and were coming out of college really not mastering the English language at all. And so what this legislation did, it said that in certain kinds of classes, a large percentage of your grade had to be based on your demonstration of your ability to understand and correctly use the English language, including composing essays and so on. The good news is that the requirements have been relaxed since then, and the individual colleges have a lot more leeway to determine how they're going to apply this rule. But bottom line is college level reading and essay writing skills are required. This is a sophomore level course. So it assumes that you have taken the two freshman English composition courses, which are English Composition 1 and English Composition 2. Now, it is not required. In other words, if you haven't taken these courses and you register for this class, it's not going to tell you no. As long as you are confident of your ability to write a sophomore level essay, following formatting guidelines and objectives, following objectives, and using the English language correctly, you're fine. But if you're not confident in that, if you've never written college level essays before, you've never taken English Composition 1 and 2, and you're not confident of your ability to do that, you might want to consider taking English Composition 1 and 2 before you take this or any other Gordon Rule class where part of your grade is going to be based on demonstrating your ability to use the English language. Now, you're scared to death, don't be. I've made this as easy as it can be. I really do not want to grade papers for English composition. Sometimes I have to, though, when I get some that I just can't overlook the many, many problems. But what I'm really concerned with is content. I'm going to ask you to talk about different subjects, and if I can see in the paper that you have really thought about these things and you're telling me something that's meaningful, I'm a lot more likely to excuse a couple of run-on sentences or sentence fragments or something like that. But if you give me something that just doesn't have much substance, I have no choice but to grade your paper for English composition. So, which is not what I would like to do. I love the English language. I'm pretty much a master of the English language, but sitting and grading freshman or sophomore level English composition papers, to me, feels like about the third level of hell. It's just not something I personally want to do, or else I'd probably be teaching English. So again, I'm more concerned with content. I'm more concerned with you demonstrating that you've thought about these things and that you are telling me something meaningful. That's what's going to impress me. The second thing that is good is that the actual word count requirements have diminished quite a lot in the last few years. You're going to have to write a total of 1,200 words in this course, and it's going to be in two different essays. The first one is the first week, and it's 400 words. The second essay is the last week of the course, and it's 800 words. And that is really not much at all. USF, when I was teaching there, this same class, the Gordon Rule requirement was 6,000 words. And then finally, a few years ago, they lowered it to 4,500. So 1,200 is really a whole bunch of nothing. Lastly, these essays are not going to be research papers. You're not going to be using any kind of citation system. You're not going to be using MLA or APA or anything like that. There's going to be no research. You are going to have no citations at all. These are reflection papers, which means you are thinking, and I want to know what you think about things. So they're a different kind of paper. You'll be using the first person. You'll have to say, I thought about this and in my life, and it's okay to do that. Where if you're writing a research paper, if you've taken English Comp 1 and 2, you know you don't use first person. Now, the one thing that's the same is you still don't want to use second person. You don't want to be talking like you're talking to your friend and going, well, you know that. That doesn't work in any kind of a college level essay. But you are going to be reflecting. I want to know what you think. So there's going to be no citations. There's going to be no research. You should not be going online at all to find out anything before you write these papers. I want you to think about what I've said, and I want you to tell me your opinion. So these are the three things here that have made this just a really, really easy assignment, as long as you can, communicate using the English language fairly correctly. Now, even though that is the case, every now and then there's some student that just does not have confidence in their ability to think, I guess, and they go online trying to find another paper to submit and say it's their own. And it's really kind of ridiculous because I'm just asking your opinion on things. I'm asking you to speculate on things. It's not like they're a right answer or a wrong answer. I just want you to demonstrate that you're thinking. And you certainly can't do that by stealing an essay from someone else. And as you'll find out later, plagiarism is just like, it's a deal breaker. You fail for plagiarism. Don't even think about it. These are easy papers. They're reflection papers. Tell me what you think about the subjects. Okay? Simple. Made it as simple as it can be. And when you get to the first essay assignment, which you're going to be seeing in this first module that you've just begun here, all of the formatting requirements, all of the content requirements are in there. Every possible question you could ask, I believe, is addressed in there. But if you feel like you have a question that isn't addressed in the instructions, by all means, send me a message, an email. I will always respond to you and answer your questions, but it should be pretty easy to see. I've also included at the bottom of the essay instructions, you are going to see that there is an example essay also available that you can click on the link and go to. And don't pay attention to the content of it at all. But what it does is it shows you what the paper looks like when you formatted it correctly. It shows you what the cover page should look like, how the paper should be formatted with 1-inch margins and double spacing and 12-point type and all of that. It's just a format paper you can look at and just get a visual of how it looks. Now, all of the instructions are actually, in the paper, but some people like to have a visual. I've made it as easy as I can. If you have any other questions, let me know when you see the assignment. 400 words is with double space, 12-point type, and 1-inch margins. It's like maybe 1 1/4 pages, after the cover page. It's just not that much. It's an easy assignment. Now, the one at the end of the semester is also going to be a reflection paper. It's going to be twice as long, 800 words, so it's maybe 2.5 pages. Most students actually think that is an easier one because after the entire semester, they have all kinds of things to talk about. So, I've made the essay requirements as easy as I possibly can, but I do want you to demonstrate that you're thinking about the objectives of the paper. Okay, moving on here. Online requirements. This is a fully online course. We're not going to be meeting synchronously via Zoom or anything. We call that an online hybrid course. So in either of those courses, though, you really have to have reliable internet access. Very important. Basic computer skills, obviously. Basic word processing skills, because you're going to be using Microsoft Word or Apple Works or something like that to produce your essays. You're going to be submitting them online. You're going to need a regularly accessible laptop or desktop computer with a microphone and a webcam. Okay? Smartphones and tablets will not be sufficient for this course. We're using, first of all, the Canvas-based architecture for the course in itself. And while it works fairly well on desktop and laptop computers, there is a Canvas app for your smartphone, which is convenient if you want to see messages or whatever. But when you start trying to take quizzes or something online on your phone, you're going to find out that sometimes things go wrong. The phone freezes or, things happen when you use the Canvas phone app. Do not rely on it. You really need a real computer, okay? When I say microphone and webcam, You will not need that taking the quizzes. The quizzes you'll be taking every week just to prepare for the exams. But when you actually take the midterm and final exams, they're going to be proctored, which means that you're going to be taking the exam and there's actually going to be a camera watching you while you are taking the exam. And so your camera has to be working, and obviously, you're going to be looking at the questions and answering them on your computer. So a real computer, laptop computer is fine, long as it has a microphone and of course a camera. When you take them, you will need to have your PHSC issued student ID or some kind of government issued ID card. Driver's license is fine because the program will ask you to hold it up and see it beforehand. You're going to have to use, to take the midterm and final exam, you're going to have to use the Google Chrome browser. It's the one that this particular program works on. You can't use Facebook or Safari or Internet Explorer. It has to be the Google Chrome, and you will have to install the HonorLock Chrome extension. The software program we're using for proctoring is called HonorLock. Now, don't fear, you don't have to understand all of this now. When you get close to the midterm, there will be a module telling you exactly what to do, giving you links where to download it. It's going to give you a practice quiz that you can do that doesn't affect your grade, just to make sure everything's working right. So don't worry about it. It'll be easy. But all of that to say that you do have to have a working computer with a microphone and a video camera. Okay? There is a syllabus addendum when you look at the syllabus near the end, and it's an addendum that says proctored exam statement and academic dishonesty, and it just talks about the proctored exams and so on, and the penalties for academic dishonesty. As I said before, academic dishonesty is really kind of a deal breaker. I mean, this is a course where we're talking about higher ideals and ethical standards and so on, and to come into a course like this and to try to, lie, cheat, and steal your way through it is just really kind of a deal breaker. So please don't cheat. I mean, you disrespect yourself as a person when you do that. Every decision you make, you're making a decision what kind of person you're going to become. And even though you may not wake up tomorrow with leprosy if you've cheated on something, it's very sad, to reach middle age and look back on your life and realize that you don't like the person that you've become. And so making these bad decisions, making these decisions to lie or to steal, and basically that's what cheating is. You're, stealing something that's not yours and lying it, saying it's yours, submitting it. And when you make a decision to lie, cheat, and steal, you're making a decision to become a liar, a cheater, and a stealer, a thief. And that just does more damage than you realize. And trust me, I'm older than I look. I have adult grandchildren, 2 of them. So I have 3, but 2 are adults. So trust me, I know it's just not worth it. And that will be a deal breaker in this course. Okay, so please don't even think about cheating. It's going to be very difficult anyway, especially on the exams, because again, I'm going to be asking you about concepts. And the answers are not things that you can memorize and then find online or something like that. It is just not going to work. You really have to understand the concepts. And so again, it's a thinking course. Prepare to think, prepare to look at things from different perspectives. It's very interesting, but you're just not going to get around the requirement to think and understand concepts. Okay. Going on, some important considerations in an online course. Of course, the benefit is you can customize your schedule much more than a face-to-face course. So, you can look at the videos, do the quizzes anytime you want to. Of course, the other side of it is it's going to take a higher level of self-discipline and self-motivation. You're going to need to make a schedule that works well for you, and you're going to have to stick to it faithfully. If you get behind in this course, it is going to be very difficult to catch up. Why? Because again, these concepts require you to take a certain amount of time to wrestle with these ideas and think them through. And there's no way, if you get 3 or 4 weeks behind, you can make yourself think 5 times faster. It just doesn't work. There's a certain amount of time that it takes to grasp the content, and you do not want to get behind. So it's important to be disciplined with the schedule. Okay. Next, there's another important consideration. This is a summer semester. It is 10 weeks instead of 16. So if you're in a regular 16-week semester, class lecture time is 2.5 hours a week. Now, it might be once a week meeting, or you might meet twice a week with 1 hour and 15 minutes each time. But either way, it's 2.5 hours of lecture, okay? Now, because this is a 10-week course, the amount of lecture, and obviously you're going to be watching videos, but it's still me teaching, much the way I would be in class, except I'll be sitting in an office instead of in front of a classroom. But you are going to be watching on average 4 hours of video teaching per week. Okay, and that's going to stay really close to the 4 hours. It's not going to vary much at all, believe me. And when you get to the different modules, you're going to find out that the due dates on the modules have to do with how long the videos are. So if you have a module where the combined total of the videos you have to watch is 4 hours, you're going to have 7 days to do it. If the total, is something like, 2.5 hours or something, then you're probably going to have like 4 days to do it. So all of the module lengths are based on how much video you have to watch. Now, on top of that, though, obviously, you're going to have probably at least as much time as that on your own to think about the concepts, to study them, to do reading in the book, whatever. So, plan on at least 8 hours a week set aside specifically to focus on this course. And again, it's the kind of course where it's very difficult to do well if you're distracted, if you have other things going on. It's something that you need to focus on. So just be aware of that, because it is a condensed course. Your time requirements are going to be a lot more stringent. The one thing that you would want to consider is if you are holding a full-time job, you're taking care of a family or something, it might be something that you should consider to take this course in a normal semester of 16 weeks that will not be so demanding on your time. So just be aware of those two things, the important considerations of an online course and the important considerations of a condensed summer course. Okay, be aware of those. Now, the next area, and again, I'm going through this welcome letter here. We're going to go to the syllabus in just a couple minutes. The syllabus area of the Canvas website has the course syllabus. The calendar, the assignment calendar, course schedule is in the syllabus as well. And you want to read it carefully. I'm going to go over some of the important things, but what you're going to find out is in this letter, we're actually going over some things that are in the syllabus as well. And so when we get to the syllabus, I'll skip over the things that I've already talked about. Yay. Course textbook, there is a course textbook you're going to have. You have down here the Amazon link to it. The cheapest way I know of, at least as of last semester when I checked, the cheapest way to get the course textbook is to rent a Kindle e-version of the textbook. You can get the Amazon Kindle reader for your laptop or computer free. And what you can do is you can rent an electronic book, a Kindle ebook, for the length of the semester. It costs you $39.99, $40. That's the cheapest option right there. If you want to actually own a book, obviously it's going to cost you more money. But that will be sufficient. So cheapest option I know of is $40 for the Kindle ebook. And it has here the name of the book, the edition, and it actually has a link to the Amazon page. Obviously, it is also being sold at the college bookstore, but it's probably going to be more expensive there. Certainly compare the prices, but this is the cheapest one that I have found. Okay? Now, let's go to the syllabus here. The first page of the syllabus, it just tells you all the info of the course here at the top here. And it actually gives you my contact phone number and contact email address. Also in the Canvas website, you can just click to send me a message. That will actually also come to my email because all of my Canvas messages I have forwarded to my email. So whether you send an email to the address here or you just send me a Canvas message, it's all going to come to the same place. It's all good. If and you have a contact telephone number, probably very rarely that you would have to use that. But if you had some kind of emergency and you felt like you need to, that's my real phone number. You can also send me a text. Texting is fine. I do texting. And if you need to talk to me, our remote conferencing is available. We can communicate via email or text as well. We can talk on the phone, or if you want to have a video conference, we can use Zoom or whatever, and we can actually talk kind of like I'm talking to you now, except that you would be corresponding with me. So I am available. I care very much about you being successful. I am willing to go out of my way to help you in any way that I can. I really do care about my students being successful, as you will find out. And I am obsessively fair. Very important to me. By the way, let me define what fair means, because some students, when something happens that they find inconvenient or it's not the way they want it to be, they go, that's not fair. No. The definition of fair is not convenient. The definition of fair is not things being the way you like them to be. The definition of fair is that everybody is treated in exactly the same way, and the requirements are made very, very, very clear. That's fair. I treat every student the same way. That doesn't mean I'm not arbitrarily merciful. It doesn't mean that I won't go out of my way to help you. It just means that anything I would do for you, I would do for any other student in the same situation. So that's what I mean when I say that I find it important to be fair. I'm obsessively fair. If you have anything that you think is unfair, please talk to me. Going on here, you see the prerequisite for reading, and we've already talked about that. There is, it says under course objectives, a master course outline that you can read online that has all of the objectives. You really don't have to, and I'll tell you why. Number one, after this semester, starting in the fall, we're not using it anymore. We had such long, drawn-out objectives that what the school has done is they've drawn up new course master outlines, master objectives, and they are much, much, much shorter. And it's just going to be so much easier. So if you don't want to go and read them, that's fine. What I've done just for right now is I've made it easy. And there's another document, you'll see it says addendum. And all it is just a very short outline that's much shorter than the one online. And it just tells you what I'm looking for. So let's look at that right now. And this will tell you a little bit more about what the course is about and how we're going to be studying here. Okay. First of all, basic course objectives and outcomes. It talks about identifying and comparing. Let's stop here for a second. Everything is about comparison. We learn everything by comparing things. So obviously we're going to be comparing the world religions, okay? We're going to be comparing the general tenets, that means the belief system, the worldviews, how they see the nature of the world. Is it good? Is it evil? You know, are we supposed to be in harmony with it? Are we supposed to reject it? Does it go on forever? Is it going to end at some time? There's all kinds of different worldviews as well. And the main religions we're going to be looking at, the main world religions are Hinduism, Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Unfortunately, the lecture time I have is just far too short to go through all of the chapters in the textbook. But there are other chapters. If you're interested in other things, there are some very good chapters on things like, you know, Shinto or Sikhism or things like that, Jainism too, that I just don't really have time to go through. However, if you're interested in any of those, please read them. If you would like to discuss something with me or ask me questions about one of the chapters that I'm not teaching, please do. I mean, obviously I could teach any of the chapters. There's just not enough time. So these are the ones that I'm going to be concentrating on. We are going to be talking about the historical context for the creation of all of these religions, the founding or the formative area of the religions. That's the time when they're formed. And we're going to talk about the social historical context in which they are formed, because no religions are formed in a bubble. Whatever the belief system is, whatever the answers are to the questions of ultimate concern, it very much relates to the concerns of the people in that particular culture and society. If a religion is answering questions that people aren't asking, or if it's answering the questions they are asking in a way that doesn't work for them, the religion's going to die. The religion has to answer people's questions of ultimate concern. And so when you understand what it's like to be a person at that time, in that country, in that society, then it makes it a lot easier to understand why the religion was set up the way it is and the kind of belief structure that they have embraced from the beginning and the kind of different ritual practices they've embraced too. It makes it a lot easier. So we're going to work a lot with the historical backgrounds and cultural context here, as it says in the second thing. And of course, you will understand why understanding, you'll understand why understanding, I know it sounds so redundant, but you will understand why this socio-historical understanding is so important in understanding any religion. Without it, you just can't understand how the religion is founded. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be talking about the development and expansion and diversification of each religion as well. Now, as the religions go on through the centuries and society and culture changes, what happens is there are new issues that come up that have never been dealt with before, that the founders of the religion, have never dealt with before. And at that point in time, the leaders of the religion are trying to figure out, what the founders of the religion would be, saying about these issues were they here today. And of course, they're not always going to agree. So a lot of these issues, whether they're economic or political or whatever, are going to cause divisions or diversification within the religion, and you're going to get different branches of the religion. And so it's also important to understand the historical context of when these divisions take place and why they take place. Good example, and something that might be easy for people to understand, because in the United States of America, and most of you are going to be from there, the main religion in this country, there's many different forms, but it's some form of Christianity. And there are a lot of arguments, especially in the political spectrum, about issues that were never dealt with by Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus of Nazareth never talked about democracy. He never talked about communism, because guess what? Neither of those things existed in the society that he was in. A ways away in Athens, there was kind of a democratic experience that, at some point didn't look like it was going to work. But I mean, in the context he's in, there's no democracy. I mean, you've got kings, emperors, and then lower vassal kings, and, taxes are paid, but there's no democracy. There's certainly no communism. I mean, communism, originates just in the last couple centuries. So when you start talking about socialism, communism, democracy, capitalism, Jesus is not addressing any of these issues. Jesus does not address abortion. Institutionalized abortion does not exist. Jesus is not, addressing gay marriage or transgender issues at all, because in the society he's talking to, gay marriage doesn't exist. And there's so many other things. I can go right down the list and tell you all kinds of things today that Christians think they understand Jesus's opinion on. But the fact of the matter is they're extrapolating from different areas of the Bible that, and they're applying principles to areas that they were never originally applied to. And so there's a lot of difference of opinion. And that's why you can have Christians on one side that, favor opening the borders and welcoming everybody and equal rights for everyone. And you've got Christians on the other side, thinking that people that, do not adhere to their idea of the correct social relationship should not have equal rights. And there's just different issues on both sides of the spectrum. So that's a real good way to look at it. And the list of things that Jesus doesn't address that are really, really important today goes on and on and on. But people think they know how Jesus would feel about these things if he is here now. And there's a lot of disagreement about that. Well, that kind of thing happens in all kinds of different religions. And in the monotheistic religions, as you will see, sometimes the the vituperative nature of these debates is much more pronounced, because in the monotheistic religions, there tends to be more of a focus on being right theologically about everything. So if someone doesn't agree with you, you're going to see a lot more people that are going to be pointing the finger and going, God doesn't like you, you're going to hell. Or you're not going to see that attitude in the Eastern religions, as you'll see. They just have a completely different focus. It's more about the ethical outworkings of whatever your discipline is, as long as it's helping you to love your neighbor as yourself, be at peace within yourself, be a productive member of society, be a blessing to your fellow man. Even if you have a different spiritual discipline, they accept you because it's working the way it's supposed to work in your life. And that's one of the complaints that some people have about some monotheists that are very, very stringent about believing the right thing. They may be certain that they believe theologically the right way, but they seem to be very, very intolerant, non-loving, judgmental, miserable people. So maybe they've got the right theology, but it doesn't seem like it's working the way it's supposed to in their life. And you'll see that the Eastern religions focus very differently than many sections of, say, Christianity and Islam, which are the two that have doctrinal sections of the religion that are very, very focused on correct doctrine, and they tend to be a little bit more intolerant, a little bit less inclusive, a little bit more exclusive, and we'll talk about this. And as I said, we are going to be comparing these religions, the main beliefs, the ultimate goals, the methods of attainment. By the way, there's two kinds of goals. There's goals for this life, how to have the best life you can have here. We call that the already. And then goals for what's going to happen after this life, how to have the best outcome when this life is over, and we call that the not yet. And so you'll sometimes hear religious studies scholars talking about these goals in terms of the already and the not yet. These two different kinds of goals. We're going to be comparing them. and of course the methods of attaining these goals. One of the things they're all going to share is some idea that there's something that needs to be fixed. There's somehow that humans have gotten out of harmony with the ultimate. They'll have different stories about how it happened. They'll have different explanations about, why maybe you're not feeling, at peace or fulfilled or whatever. And they'll have different explanations about what you have to do to overcome the problem. But they all recognize that there is some kind of problem, that in some ways this life is dissatisfactory. And something needs to be fixed or corrected. Somehow humans need to become reconnected to the ultimate to gain some kind of a quality of life that they have lost, or maybe they've never had. Again, there's many different ways of looking at it. And so we will also be learning a lot of the sacred stories which embody these beliefs, the authors, the major characters, the major motifs, the major teachings, and the major rites, holidays, festivals, that are connected to the stories and their significance. Now, what we're going to be doing here, I keep talking about comparison, okay? If you've ever taken English composition 1, you probably had to write a particular kind of essay. One of the ones you had to write was called a comparison and contrast essay. And what you're doing is you're taking 2 or more things that have something substantial in common, but are also very different in other ways. But they do have to have something in common or it doesn't work. If you were writing a paper about the difference between Martians and paperclips, it would not be a good paper, because Martians and paperclips I really don't think have much in common. But if you were writing a paper about the difference between having a dog, a cat, or a ferret as a pet, that would probably be a great paper, because people have pets for similar reasons, but the pets, bond with humans in a different way. If you were writing a paper about the difference between raising a boy child or a girl child, great paper. Both children, both being raised, but some differences. Paper between the difference between apples and oranges, great paper. They're both fruits, and so they both are nourishing, but in different ways. So here's the important thing. Before you can compare the differences in things in a meaningful way, you have to know what they have in common. Now, when you talk about dogs and cats, boys and girls, apples and oranges, we all just kind of naturally know what they have in common, at least to a great degree. Unfortunately, religions are not like that. And a lot of people do not realize what all of the world religions have in common. And so when they start comparing them, all they see are the differences. And when all you see are the differences, if you have some idea about what's best or what's the truth, when you see the differences, the only real conclusion you can come to is that all of these other varieties are somehow wrong. And you probably know there's a lot of people in the world that look at things that way. This is different than the way I believe. It's wrong. Well, that's why we have to start by seeing what all religions have in common. And so the first few weeks of the course are going to be all about religion in itself, okay? What it does, what its features are, and we're going to talk about major transitions in religion, in human society and culture over the centuries, and we're going to see what all religions have in common, and we're going to be really grounded in that before we actually start the individual religions and comparing these different features. Once we see what is the same, then we can look how these different features are manifested in different ways in the religions, and we can learn a lot. We can have a much more fruitful comparison. But we are going to have to start by seeing what's the same about all religions. That has to be the foundation. So just wanted to make that comment about the comparison and contrast. And by the way, back a few decades ago, when religious studies as an academic discipline was really kind of taken off in the middle of the 20th century, a lot of the world religions courses were called comparative religion. And students that specialized, were sometimes, it was said they specialized in comparative religion. Today, we don't really use the term. We talk about world religions or religious studies, but nothing has really changed. We're still learning the same way. We compare and contrast things that are similar to see how they're different. And then we ask why. People see these in different ways, how they see them in different ways. And so what we're going to be trying to do in this class is we're going to be trying to learn, we're going to be trying to imagine what it's like to be someone completely different from yourself. someone in a different country, a different society, different culture, different religion, hey, maybe even a different century. And they may have very little in common with the life that you have experienced. So you're going to have to kind of set aside your way of looking at things, and you're going to have to imagine what it's like to be someone else growing up in the society they grow up in. You're going to have to imagine what that's like too. And then you'll be able to see how their religion actually works in their life to answer their questions of ultimate concern, add meaning and purpose to their life. But you're not going to understand it unless you're imagining what it's like to be them. Now, this is not a big problem. We do this every time we watch a movie or we read a good, book or whatever, and you try to identify with the protagonist in the book or whatever, but it's someone who's different than you, maybe in a very different situation, and you're imagining what it's like to be them. That's exactly what you have to do when you are studying what it's like to be someone who is very different from you in a social setting that is very different from yours. And we're going to be learning this discipline, okay? So again, as I said before at the beginning of this video, it's not so much about right and wrong, it's about different perspectives and learning to see from different perspectives, okay? If you think you see very clearly this is right and this is wrong, dealing with any kind of cultural, social, religious thing, you probably don't know much about the subject. Because the more you learn about different perspectives, the harder it gets to slam your fist on the table and say this is the right one. There's so many different religions that have many different features, but they all work in people's lives to satisfy their psychological and sociological needs. And looking at someone else and saying, how could they believe that? Well, that's just the wrong question to ask, because obviously they do, and obviously millions of people do, and obviously it's working in their life in some kind of way that's fulfilling, or they wouldn't be adhering to the religion. So the correct question is not how could anybody believe it? The question is, how does the religion work in the lives of people who look at it this way, who believe it this way, who apply it this way? And so again, trying to see through other people's eyes. Now, in the next video you're going to watch, by the way, which is called The Academic Study of Religion, I am going to reiterate this, and I'm going to talk more about this whole idea of putting yourself in the position of other people. But that's very, very important. All right, moving on through the syllabus, we kind of finished the addendum here, which is the basic course objectives. We've already talked about the Gordon Rule requirements, so we will go on. We've already talked about the required textbook. We're going to go on. The method of assessment is very simple. Essays, 25%, the 2 essays we talked about. Online quizzes, the average of all of them, you're going to have like 14, I think, over the course of the semester, maybe 15, but the average of all of them is 25% of your grade. The midterm exam is also 25%. The final exam is also 25%. So the 2 exams are half of your grade. Now, the quizzes are there to help you prepare for the exams. The quizzes are done online. They are timed. Usually you're going to have like 2 minutes per multiple choice question where you have A, B, C, D, you have to pick one of them. So that's, you understand the concept. You'll probably be picking one within 10 or 15 seconds, but 2 minutes is more than enough. If I do more than that, students don't study. They turn it into look it up exercises, and those do not help them prepare for the exams. They bomb the exams. Just like if you're trying to memorize the questions and the answers, when you get to the exam, you're not going to do well. The purpose of the quizzes is to ask you about different concepts. And if you get something wrong on the quizzes, what it's going to tell you is you do not adequately understand this concept. And so even if you bomb the quiz, that's wonderful. That's okay. It's a small part of your grade. Each quiz is less than a point when you add the whole thing together. Well, actually, it might be a little more than a point, but my point is you could bomb half the quizzes, but as long as you learn from your mistakes and you learn why the wrong answer was the wrong answer, what made it wrong, and the right answer, you could actually explain why this was the right answer. If you use the quizzes in that way, then what's going to happen is when you get to the midterm and the final exams, you can ace them. But that's what the quizzes are for. You have to use them in the right way. And we will talk more about that. The quizzes are going to have mostly multiple choice matching questions. It says true false here, but actually I don't think I'm using any true false questions at all. So you could probably disregard that. There are some short response questions. A short response, short essay, the same thing. You're not really writing an essay. Short response could be like a couple sentences at the most. And there's a few of them, but the vast majority, like I said, are going to be matching or multiple choice, where you have a number of options and you're actually selecting from one. Now, when you get to the midterm exam or the final exam, you're going to have the same kind of questions with the same kind of answer choices. But the difference is going to be that the questions may not be the same questions. They'll be asking about the same topics, the same subjects that you have been addressing in the quizzes. But you're not going to see the exact same question. You're not going to see the exact same answer choices. And this is why if you use the quizzes to make sure you understand the concepts, you'll do fine on the exams. But if you don't use the quizzes to understand why the wrong answer was wrong or why the right answer is right, if you just try to memorize right answers and wrong answers, it's not going to help you on the exams, at least not much, okay? Again, because this is a thinking course. If you understand the concept, I can ask you 10 different questions about the concept. You'll answer them all fine. But if you've memorized 2 questions about the subject, and I ask you a 3rd or 4th question, you're stuck. It's all about understanding, okay? It's all about understanding the concepts. So that's what the quizzes do. They help you to prepare for the exams. And after you've taken a couple quizzes, the first 2 quizzes are very short. You've got 2 in this first module, but each of them, they're like 5 questions each. They're 10 minutes long, simple. But you'll understand kind of how the quizzes work. And then again, they're preparing you for the exam. So it's very important to do all the quizzes. It's very important to make sure you understand, you know, why the right answers were right, why if you got a wrong answer, why it's wrong, why the answer that should have been right is right. It's very important to do that. Because of that, when you do the quizzes, I'm not going to just after the quiz give you all the right answers, because what happens is students memorize the right answers and then they bomb the exams. The second thing they do is they upload all of the answers to Quizlet or something like that, and then students download them and they think they're prepared, and more students bomb the exams. I'm doing it because I care, and I want you to understand the subjects, not just so you'll do well on the exams, but so you can get the benefit from this understanding that works well in your life. And so I'm making it harder for you to misuse the quizzes. I'm making it harder for you to fail by forcing you to do it in this way. And, you know, once you get to the midterm exam, at that point, the comment I will get from most of the students is, I like the quizzes so much better now as I was going through the exam and I'm seeing the questions and going, got this, I know this. At that point, you're going to really be grateful for the quizzes. They're preparing you for the exams. That's what they're supposed to be doing. So again, the average of the quizzes, all of them together, is 25% of your grade. The essay assignments, well, first of all, one other thing about the quizzes and the modules. When you go to the website, you've probably already been there, obviously, or you wouldn't be seeing this, but you have to go through them in order. You cannot start another module until you have done all the quizzes from the previous module. You have to go through things in order and you have to complete everything. Okay, so that's important as far as the quizzes. As far as the essay assignments, you've got one the first week, like I said, one the last week. They have to be completed. They have to. If you got to the end of the semester and say you had like this really, really high grade average, where if you didn't do, you know, like the last essay, you'd still get a B. No, you'd get an F. You have to do them. They are required. So regardless of what your grade average is, you have to submit both essays and they have to fulfill the formatting and content requirements of the essays. That's the nature of a Gordon Rule course. So they're not optional. If you are not comfortable writing essays, please drop the course this week while you can get your money back. I say this, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, right? But there's always a couple students that just act in illogical ways. They don't want to write an essay, they're not going to, but they don't drop the course. And so about 3 or 4 weeks into the course, when they still haven't written the essay, you know, obviously I'm having to boot them out of the course. And so just making it clear, the essays are required. You do have to write them. They're easy. I've explained that before. It's just reflection, telling me what you think about things. And I will actually talk just a little bit about the essay right now. Now you have a page you can print out that has all of the requirements, but very briefly, I'm just going to let you know when I say it's reflection, I am going to ask you after the first week, after you finish the academic study of religion, after you finish the different features of religion, which by the way is 5 videos, that's a big lesson, it's the second module, but those take up the first week. At the end of that, you're going to have a much better idea how learning these things might be beneficial to you in your future life. And all I'm asking you to do is, based on what you've learned the first week, speculate on how this might be beneficial to you in your life. Could be career, could be personal relationship, personal improvement, could be, world travel, whatever. There's no right or wrong answer. I just want you to be thinking about what kind of benefits the course might have in your life. And the funny thing is, if you start thinking about the course in terms of what the benefits could be, you have a much greater chance that the course will be of benefit to you. Funny how that works. So, if you have any questions on the essay, let me know. All right. Makeup policy, miss quizzes, well, they can and must be made up. Even if you don't do them on time, you're still going to have to do them before you move on, and as you'll see. Missed online midterm exam, obviously you can't move on until you make it up. It has to be made up. Missing the final exam is a big problem, because what happens is the final exam, the final essay, and there's actually an extra credit module at the end of the course, which can add a bunch to your grade if you're in a hole. But all of that has to be completed on a particular day. And I have to have final grades in on a particular day. So if you miss the final exam, you better be making it up like the very, very next day, or I can't pass you because I'm constrained to get in the final grades. Pretty simple. It tells you that you'll access the course materials on the website. You've already been there. You know this. You'll print and download class outlines. You've already done this. You'll take online quizzes. We've talked about that. Important announcements from me will be posted on the website or sent to your PHSC email address. Be sure you check it every day. There's a way that you can forward those PHSC emails to your personal email address if you want to get them right away. I suggest you do that. Students that don't check their email and don't check the announcements might miss some information that actually hurts them in terms of their grade or fulfilling things. So you want to make sure that you are constantly checking the announcements and your email, because that's the only way that I can really get in touch with you if there's something important. Suggested time strategies on the next page. We've talked about the online course considerations. We've talked about the summer semester considerations. The college has actually a website that can give you some helpful study tips. All of that you should be able to get through. Free tutoring is available. It gives you the link there. Important college date tells you, of course, you have to drop the course by this Thursday if you want to just get your money back. If you don't drop it by then, you can still drop it by the final date, which is June 28th. You won't get your money back, but you won't have to get a grade. So if you're unhappy with your progress by June 28th, you can drop by then. It won't affect your GPA on your transcript. It'll just show a W. But you're not going to get a refund unless you've got some really extenuating circumstances and you petition for a special exception, which I have nothing to do with, by the way. That's a different office. Course schedule is here, and it's a little page like this. If you're looking at it on the left side, it tells you the due date. Next column tells you the module number. And obviously there's some other things there like the Essay 1 assignment, the midterm, the Essay 2 assignment, the final. Everything else is a module number. It will tell you the subject of the module. It'll tell you the videos in the module and the subject of the different videos. It will tell you what kind of outline documents that you're going to find on the website in the module that you have to download and use for the study. And then the final right-hand column tells you what you're going to have to read in the Fisher textbook. Now, as you can see, you are not really going to have an assignment from the Fisher textbook until the third module, but you're going to need to have that book by the end of the second week of the course at the absolute latest. But again, if you're getting the e-version of the book, you can download it immediately and start using it right away. If you have any questions about the schedule, let me know. Obviously, the schedule is always subject to change if, something happens. I mean, if we had a hurricane or something and the school was closed for 2 weeks, obviously I'd have to change the curriculum. And so it's subject to change, but any changes into the schedule, the syllabus will be posted. You'll get emails. We'll make sure everybody understands them. Okay. Classroom conduct, you can read this yourself. Cheating and plagiarism, we've talked about this. Attendance policy, very simple in an online course, okay? We obviously don't have class meetings or remote meetings that are synchronized. So the attendance policy is pretty simple, okay? If you have submitted no assignment whatsoever in 2 weeks' time, you will be dropped from the course. It's just the way it works. Now, if you have some kind of emergency and you actually contact me and say, oh my God, my appendix burst, I'm in the hospital, I won't be getting out for 2 weeks. If I know, I can make an exception and not drop you. But if you have not submitted an assignment in 2 weeks and you haven't communicated with me in any way, you'll be dropped from the course. You can read the whole thing, but that's the whole conclusion of the whole attendance policy. Makes it really easy. Financial aid information, if you do not finish 60% of the course, they may ask you to pay back whatever grants, you received or loans or whatever. Again, I have nothing to do with that. That's financial aid. Withdrawal policy, we talked about this. Technology information, you can read that on your own. It tells you about your PHSC email, which you should be using and checking all the time. Course instructor evaluations after 60% of the course. A new link will appear on your website where you can actually do an evaluation of the course and of me as your instructor. There's a disability statement. There's an equal access and opportunity statement. There's a Title IX sexual assault and misconduct policy. These are all official policies. There's a software policy for any software that you use. In this course, it probably won't apply much because you're not doing any research. The smoke and tobacco won't apply because you're not on campus. Copyright compliance won't really apply because you're not doing any research. There's a Baycare student assistance program. If you need any kind of counseling or anything like that, you can get a substantial amount of free counseling just through the college resources. There's a special addendum on coronavirus and so on, and face-to-face classes on campus, which doesn't apply to us, but you can read that. There is also a syllabus addendum that I mentioned before about the proctored exams, about academic dishonesty, and it tells you more. We've already discussed this, but it will reiterate what I talked about, needing to have the Google Chrome browser, needing to download and install the HonorLock extension. Like I said, I'll make it easy for you. Before the midterm, there'll be a module, tells you how to do everything, gives you a practice quiz to make sure you're set up right. Don't worry about it now. And that is basically it. You are going to have, hopefully you've downloaded all these documents I talked to you about. You should also have a document called the Academic Study of Religion, and it is what you're going to use with the next video. It's the next thing in the module there. And I think that's the only other thing I have here that we're not talking about right now, but your next video is going to talk about it and you will be using that outline. Again, you're going to have 2 quizzes in this module. The first one is going to be on what we talked about right here. You're going to have 5 questions just about the things that we talked about right here, okay? So let me just cover a couple things, okay? I'm going to make this real simple. Again, one of them is about the Gordon Rule course and what that means, okay? One of them is about the nature of the course. Critical thinking is necessary for understanding, deeper concepts you're going to have to think about. There's going to be many concepts you haven't considered before. And so even if you are religious, all of your religious knowledge about your religion is probably not going to be nearly as helpful in this course as you think it is. You're still going to be learning all kinds of new things. There's going to be a question about academic dishonesty and the penalty for it. There's going to be a question about attendance and, what happens if you don't submit assignments for a couple weeks. And there's going to be a question about why you can't use a smartphone instead of a computer. We've talked about all these things. It should be an easy, easy quiz. The second quiz is going to be after you listen to the Academic Study of Religion video, and it's going to ask you 5 questions about the academic study of religion, which again, if you've watched the video, should be really simple to answer. If you have any questions, you may send me an email, you may send me a Canvas message. If you've asked me something and your message needs a reply, I always reply. If I'm busy, it might take me a few hours or it might be the next day. But if I have a chance, I will try to respond the same day. I'm pretty good about that. If you have any concerns about anything, I'm more than happy to talk with you. And once again, let me just reiterate, I really do want you all to do well. And if you're having any problems and you want to talk to me, I will go out of my way to help you in any way that I possibly can. Okay? So I'm here. Alrighty? Okay, thanks. Welcome again to REL2300 World Religions, and I hope you have a great semester. All right. See you in the next video.